This is Math 6100, 23rd 7th trimestral. And our lessons for today is all about continuous functions. So we have your D, continuous functions. So in section 1.2, we saw a few nice functions whose limit as x approaches a. Simply involved substituting a into the function, the limit the function of x as x approaches to a is equal to the function of a. So dito natin masasabi na ang functions natin ay continuous if these two are equal. Okay? So, pag titingnan po natin dito, yung limit na ginagamit natin dito, x approaches to constant. Last week, no? Doon sa mga previous lessons natin. Pero dito, we are going to use as x approaches to a. Okay? So, the limit, the function of x as x approaches to a is equal to the function of a to make the function to be considered as continuous functions. Okay? Functions whose limits have this substitution property are called continuous functions. And they have number of the other useful properties and are very common in applications. Okay? We will examine what it means graphically for a function to be continuous or not. Okay? So some properties of continuous functions will be given, and we will look at few applications of these properties, including a way to solve horrible questions such as sin x equal to 2x plus 1 all over x minus 2. Okay? So, yun po yung basihan lang po natin to make the function to be continuous. Dapat itong dalawa are equal. Okay? So, ito na po siya, no? So, definition and meaning of a continuous. Definition of a continuous at a point. A function f is continuous at x is equal to a. Okay? If and only if the limit of the function of x as x approaches to a is equal to the function of a. So, ito po yung basis po natin. So, the graph in figure 1 illustrates some of the different ways of a function can behave at a near a point. And also in table 1 contains some numerical information about the function and its behavior. Based on the information in the table, we can conclude that f is continuous at 1 since the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 1 is equal to 2, and also it's equal to the function of 1 which is equal to 2. Okay? So, paano po yan, no? Ito po siya. So, if we're going to look on our figure 1, sabi dito, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 1. So, ito na yung limit po natin. As x approaches to 1, ito na siya. This your x and y axis. This now your functions, no? Okay? So, as x approaches to 1, project it upward. Okay? Kung saan po siya tatama. And then, project it to the left. This now your limit. Okay? So, that is your y is equal to the function of x. So, tama yung sagot niya. Your limit is equal to 2. Okay? Next, if you're going to locate the function of a, your a is equivalent to 1. Yung dito natin dito, that is your a, di ba? Ito na siya. A. Tapos ito, function of a. Okay? So yung a natin, which is equivalent to 1, project it upward, and then project it to the left, the answer is 2. So, yun po yung pagkakaiba po nila, no? Although they have the same, okay? So mamaya makikita po natin ano yung pagkakaiba nitong left side at saka dito sa right side. Okay? Based on our graph at the same time in our table 1. Okay? So sabi dito, itong x natin is equal to 1 is a continuous function. Okay? Tapos sabi dito, we can also conclude from the information in the table that f is not continuous at a is equal to 2 or 3 or 4 because the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 2 is not equal to the function of 2. Okay? For a is equal to 2. And also for a is equal to 3, the limit the function of x as x approaches to 3 is not equal to the function of 3. Okay? And also, as x approaches to 4, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 4 is not equal to the function of 4. Okay? Bakit sabi niya, yung 2, 3, and 4 is not a continuous function. Only one is continuous. Okay? So how are we going to prove that one? So from your table 1, as a approaches to 1, the function of a is equal to 2. No? Ito na siya. No? Function of a is equal to 2. Yan. Okay? The limit, the function of x as x approaches to a is equal to 2. Okay? As x approaches to 1, 2 rin yung sagot. So, ibig sabihin, itong dalawa is equal to this value. So, 2 is equal to 2 kaya sinabi nilang continuous. Bakit sa 2, 3, 4 hindi siya continuous? Okay? If we're going to look on our as a approaches to 2, okay, x approaches to 2, no? This is our a. Okay, from your figure 1, okay, up, in na siya. Okay? Then project it to the left. The answer is 1. Ito na po siya. Next, as x approaches to 2, okay, using our limit, okay, yun na siya, no? Project it upward. Yun, dito tumama sa function. Okay? Y is equal to the function of x, no? Project it to the left, the answer is 2. Okay? So, ito na po siya. Ibig sabihin, your 1 is not equal to 2. So, therefore, if a is equal to 2, your function is not continuous. Okay? So, balik po tayo dun sa figure 1 po natin. So, last week, we have already see this kind of figure. Anong tawag niyo po dito sa tuldok na ito? If you still remember this one. So, by looking at your figure, makikita po natin siya, no? Okay. Ang tawag po natin dito, pag mayroon ganitong point, no, doon sa graph natin, this is an irrelevant limit. Okay? Naalala nyo po yun, no? Irrelevant. Pag mayroon tayong tawag dito, yung butas, anong tawag po natin dito? This is what we call your D, undefined limit. Okay? Ito na yun, no? Okay, mamaya di-discuss po natin. This one is irrelevant, this one is undefined. Kaya pag titignan po ninyo, hindi siya continuous dahil dalawa yung limit niya. Yung isa is irrelevant, the other one is undefined. Okay? Next, we have as A approaches to 3. Ito na siya, no? Okay? As A approaches to 3, okay? So, tingnan nyo yung tuldok, no? Ito na siya. Ang inaano niya, yung solid na tuldok. Ito, wala siyang halo, di ba? Ito yung solid, no? So, ito yung kukunin natin doon sa function natin. Okay? Yep, ito na siya. As A approaches to, the function of A is equal to 3, yan. Project it to the left, the answer is 2. Okay? Pag limit po naman, as x approaches to 3, okay, ang tawag po natin does not exist or no limit. Bakit no limit siya? Meron kayong dalawang function. Pwedeng sagot niya ay 2, pwedeng sagot niya ay 1. So this one is undefined, okay? This one is meron siyang limit which is equivalent to 2, pero hindi natin alam kung anong function saan gagamitin natin, either this one or this one. Kaya, pag ganito yung ano natin, figure po natin, these 2 points, we call this one has no limit, does not exist. Okay? So, nagamit na natin yung word na does not exist. Last meeting po. Next, as x approaches to 4, ito na siya. So pag titingnan po natin, okay, undefined din siya. Ito yun, no? Okay. Dahil hindi siya solid na tuldok. Okay? Pero pag gagamitin naman natin yung functions niya, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to a is equal to 2. Ito na yun. Okay? So, pag titingnan po natin, okay, yung function of a, ang tinatahak natin, yung tuldok na solid. Ito siya. Pero yung limit, okay, pwede rin siya sa tuldok, okay, ito yung 2, no? 2 siya, does that exist, no? Then, the answer is 2 rin po siya. Kung saan tatama doon sa curve po natin, doon sa function po natin. Okay? So, yun po yung pagkakaiba, bakit hindi sila continuous. Sabi dito, informally, a function is continuous at a point if the graph of the function is connected there. A function is not continuous at a point if its graph has a hole or break at that point. So kung meron kayong butas, okay, or break at the point, hindi siya pwedeng tawaging continuous. So there are two ways kung paano natin malalaman pag ang functions natin ay continuous. First, using the formula. Okay? And you're going to apply on the figure. Pero makikita rin po natin kaagad pag ang ano natin ay continuous based on our figure. Pero pag tinignan po natin dito, sa as x approaches to 2, hindi siya continuous. Dahil meron tayong ito, butas, hole. No? Okay. Dito, hindi rin siya continuous dahil meron tayong butas at the same time na break yung curve po natin. Sabi niya dito, is not continuous of its graph has a hole or break at that point. Nahati po siya. Okay? Dito, hindi rin continuous dahil meron tayong hole. Okay? So, yun ang pagkakaiba po natin. Pag looking at the figure, makikita po natin siya pag continuous agad yung functions po natin. Next, no? We have here another example, no? Is function of x equal to x plus 1 if x is less than or equal to 1? 2, if 1 is equal to, if x is greater than 1 but less than or equal to 2, 1 divided by x minus 3, if x greater than 2, can we consider that continuous at 1, 2, and 3? Again, by looking at figure 1 po ulit. Okay? So, solution dito. We could answer these questions by examining the graph of the function of x. But let's try them without the graph at a is equal to 1. Okay? So, at a is equal to 1, ito na siya. The function of 1 is equal to 2. Tama po siya. Okay? And the left and the right limits are equal. Ito yung right limits na, left limits natin, ito yung right limits natin. Paano natin nasabing equal? The function of x equal to the limit of x plus 1 as x approaches to 1 is equal to 2. Okay? So, x plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Yun na siya, no? 1 plus 1. So, ito na siya, no? 1 plus 1 is 2. Project it upward. Project it to the left. The answer is 2. And the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 1 is equal to limit 2 as x approaches to 1 is also 2. Okay. Ito na siya, no? Okay? Pareho pa rin na sila ay 2. So, 2 is equal to 2. So, f is a continuous at 1. Ito na siya. Okay? Nasundan po natin? Okay? Sabi dito, at a is equal to 1, the function of 1 is equal to 2. And the left and the right limits are equal. The limit of x plus 1 as x approaches to 1 is equal to 2. Ito na siya. And limit the function of x as x approaches to 1 is equal to limit 2. As x approaches to 1, the answer is 2. So f is continuous at 1. Okay? So at a is equal to 2, the function of 2 is equal to 2. But the left and the right limits are not equal. Bakit? Sabi dito, the limit the function of x as x approaches to 2, yun na siya, no? The limit of the limit of 2 as x approaches to 2 is equal to 2. Sabi dito, but the left and the right limits are not equal. Ito yung left limits natin, ito yung right limits natin. Okay? Yung left limits natin, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to is 1. Ito na siya. Okay? Yung isa, the limit 2 as x approaches to 2 is equal to 2. So therefore, your left limits is not equal to your right limit. Sabi niya dito. Next, ang limit of the function of x as x approaches to 2 is equal to, ito na siya, the limit of 1 all over x minus 3 as x approaches to 2 is equal to negative 1. So 2, substitute natin dito, 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So 1 divided by negative 1, the answer is negative 1. So if fails condition in second statement and is not continuous at 2. If it's continuous from left at 2 but not from the right. Okay? So sabi niya, yung f natin, ito no, the function is continuous from the left at 2, okay? But not from the right. Ito na yun, no? Okay? Yung ano natin, limit po natin dito is continuous siya from the left. From the right, hindi na siya continuous dahil meron tayong undefined. Meron tayong whole dito. Okay? So next, at a is equal to 3, okay? At a is equal to 3, the function of 3 is equal to 1 all over 0. So 3 minus 0 is 0 siya, which is undefined. So f is not continuous at 3 because it fails condition based on the first statement. So bakit failed yung isang condition? Okay? Dahil yung isa is undefined, yung isa nandito. Tapos nahati siya. Kaya pag titingnan po natin, yung 3 natin is not continuous. Ang continuous lang meron tayo is 1. Okay? Ito lang yung may continuous. Pero dito sa 2, hindi rin siya continuous. Continuous siya sa left, but not continuous sa right dahil putol po siya. Okay? Okay? Next. Okay? We have your problem 1 and problem 2. So for 5 minutes, okay, we're looking at your figure 14 for problem 1, at which point is the function in figure 14 discontinuous. Okay? Number 2, at which point is the function in figure 15 is also discontinuous. Okay? So for 5 minutes, pakisulat po yung sagot po natin sa chat box. So we're going to check your answers, no? Kung tumaba siya o hindi, no? Okay. So, at which point is the function in figure 14 discontinuous? Okay? So, for letter number 1, at x or at a is equal to 1. So, discontinuous po siya. Bakit discontinuous sa 1? Okay? Dahil mayroon tayong whole dito. Okay? Next, at 3. Discontinuous din po siya. Okay? Dahil putol yung functions po natin. May break po siya, may cut po. Okay? Next, at 4. Okay? Yan ay discontinuous din dahil may cut din po siya. Magmula dito, cut na siya. So, for number 1, the answer is 1, 3, and 4. Okay? So that is our answer for number 1. Okay? Next, for number 2, no? At which point is the function in figure 15 is continuous? Okay? So for 2, we have at 0. Dahil meron tayong indefinite na limit. Okay? And the last one is dito sa 2. At a is equal to 0 and a is equal to 2. Dahil meron tayong dalawang indefinite limit, meron tayong irrelevant. Tapos yung limit dito does not exist. So alam niyo na ngayon, by looking at the figure, makikita niyo kaagad kung continuous ba siya or discontinuous. Dito, continuous po siya, no? Dahil solid yung point po natin, yung circle po dito. Pero pagdating po dito, discontinuous na siya dahil meron siyang hole dito, may butas. Oops, continuous pa rin. Oops, putol siya dito, kaya discontinuous. Okay? Dito, we can consider that as continuous. Pero pagdating dito, discontinuous na dahil putol po siya. Okay? So may tanong dito, paano yung format ng pagsagot? Okay? So based on the requirements dito sa ano natin, okay? Dito sa ano natin, ang kukunin lang po natin yung sagot, yung value ng A natin. Kasi we are referring for the points po. Ano yung point doon sa figure natin ang discontinuous. Okay? So ganun po yung sagot po natin. At point 1, at A is equal to 1, at A is equal to 3, at A is equal to 4. So yun po yung mga discontinuous. Ganon din po dito sa uh, figure 15 po natin. Ito, continuous po siya. Pagdating dito, discontinuous. Dahil meron tayong hole dito, meron ding hole dito, hole din doon, saka na-break po siya. So these are the answers. Okay po? So for a minute siguro, no? Okay. So next, we have your example to, no? Sabi dito, where is function of x is equal to 3x squared minus 2x is continuous. Okay? Sabi naman niya dito, at every point, by substitution, theorem for polynomials, every polynomial is continuous everywhere. So, ibig sabihin, if you're going to plot this one using any values of A, our limit is continuous everywhere. Naintindihan po natin. So, ito po siya, no? Ito yung illustration po natin, no? So, dito, this is our function. Function of x equal to, okay, 3x squared minus 2x. If we're going to assume that if your a is equal to 1, so substitute natin. 3 times 1 squared minus 2 minus 1, the answer is 1. 3 times 1, 1 squared is 1 times 3 is 3, minus 2 is 1. Okay? As x approaches to 2, 2 squared is 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 2 times 3 is 4. The answer is 8. As x approaches to 3, 3 squared is 9 times 3 is 27, minus 6, the answer is 19. Okay? As x approaches to 4, 4 squared is 16, by 3 is 48, minus 2 by 4 is 8, we have 40. So if we're going to plot that one, ito na yung magiging figure po natin. So sabi doon, as x approaches to 1, your limit is equal to 1. So ito na yung point po natin. Sunod, as x approaches to 2, our limit is equal to 8. Ito siya, no? Nandito. Okay? As x approaches to 3, the answer is 19. And then, as x approaches to 4, the answer is 40. And if we're going to connect those points, okay, we have now a continuous functions. Ibig sabihin, kahit anong value yung ilagay mo dyan, we're going to have a continuous. Kaya sabi niya, is continuous everywhere. Sabi dito, combination of continuous functions. Ito na siya, no? Yung kanina, meron lang tayo is isa lang yung limit po natin. Ito lang siya, no? Yung binigay na function. Ito, no? Isa lang function. Dito, may dalawang functions na tayo. Ito yung theorem ko niya. If the function of x and g of x are continuous at a, and k is any constant. So then the elementary combinations, the function of f and j is equal to k multiplied by the function of x. This is now the multiplication properties. The function of x plus g of x. Ito na yung addition. Sunod, f of x minus g of x, ito na yung subtraction. Parang dun sa rules of limits natin, saka dun sa theorems of limits natin. F of x multiplied by g of x. Ito yung multiplication. Next, an f of x divided by g of x, ito na yung division. Is equal to g of a is not equal to 0. Are continuous at a. So any constant value, they are to be continuous. So the continuity of function is defined in terms of limits. And all of these results about simple combinations of continuous functions follow from the results about simple combinations of limits in the mean limit theorem. Our hypothesis is that the function of f and g are both continuous at a, so we can assume that the limit the function of x as x approaches to a is equal to the function of a, and limit g is a function of x as x approaches to a is equal to g as g which is a function of a. Ibig sabihin, itong dalawa are equal. Okay? So, and then use the appropriate part of the mean limit theorem. For example, the limit of the quantity function of x plus g of x as x approaches to a. So, we're going to use the addition, no? Didistribute natin ito isa-isa. Dahil meron na tayong dalawang function. Pag naalala nyo po last week, yung dalawang functions po natin, yung L at saka M. Yun po yun. Tulad po dito, this one represents your L, this one represents your M. Okay? Is equal to, by using the distributive property, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to a, plus limit g, which is a function of x, as x approaches to a, is equal to function of a plus g of a. So therefore, f plus g is continuous at a. Okay? So, paano natin po siya i-explain yun? Ito siya. For example, for the function of x, okay, is equal to x squared minus x minus 6, and g of x equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3, evaluate the following limits. Letter A, the limit of the function of x plus g is a function of x as x approaches to 1. Okay? Have you still remember this problem last week? Naalala niyo po siya? Ito yung example number 1 po natin. So yung equations po natin, the function of x equal to x squared minus x minus 6 as x approaches to 1. Okay? So yung ginawa po natin, sinubstitute po natin siya, no? So kukunin natin yung value ng function of x muna, no? So ang gagawin po natin dyan, 1 squared is 1 minus 1. Okay? So 1 squared is 1 minus 1 is 0 minus 6, the answer is negative 6. So yun po yung value nito. Next, kunin natin yung value ng pangalawang functions mo natin. G sub x equal to x squared minus 2x minus 3, okay, as x approaches to 1. So 1 squared is 1, minus 2 times 1 is 2. 1 minus 2 is negative 1, minus 3 is negative 4. Okay? Next. So, ito na yung addition. Kukunin na po natin yung results itong dalawa. Function of x as x approaches to 1 plus g which is a function of x as x approaches to 1. Our answer is negative 6 plus negative 4. We have negative 10. Okay, so yun po yung sagot po natin. So this one, our answer is negative 6. This one is negative 4. So pag ipa-plot po natin po siya along your x and y axis, paano natin po siya masasabi na siya ay continuous? Sabi po niya, as x approaches to 1, okay, ito yung value po natin. The answer is negative 4. This 100% sure the function of x, yung negative 4. So nandito siya. Okay? 1, positive 1, yung x natin. This your negative 4, yung y po natin. This your y axis. Sunod, yung g of x natin, as x approaches to 1, okay, our answer is negative 6. This is our g of x. Okay? And if we're going to add these two, pag in-add po natin yan, our answer is negative 10. So, big sabihin, if we're going to connect those points, 1, 2, 3, which means our function is continuous po siya. Yun po yung sabi po dito, in our, sabi niya, f plus g is continuous at a, which is your a is equal to 1. Okay? Any questions po? Yun po yung tinatawag nilang combinations of continuous functions. Combinations dahil meron tayong dalawang functions, yung f at saka g. Pero pag kinoconnect natin po siya, okay, we're going to have a continuous functions. Okay po? Okay. So, practice to tayo, no? If f and g are continuous at a, then k multiplied by f, so this is your multiplication. Constant multiplied by f and f minus g are continuous at a. Okay? So, k is a constant. So, to prove that kf is continuous at a, we need to prove that kf satisfies the definition of continuity. At a, so the limit of k multiplied by the function of x as x approaches to a is equal to k multiplied by f multiplied by the function of a. So using results about limits, we know that the limit k, the function of x as x approaches to a, is equal to, by using the properties of multiplication. So this one is constant. Ito na siya. Okay, nalabas na siya. Limit of the function of x as x approaches to a. Pero if you're going to use the continuous function, this one is the same as the function of a. So since f is assumed to be continuous at a, so kf is continuous at a. So yun po yung sagot po natin sa letter A. Sa letter B naman, to prove that f minus g is continuous at a, we need to prove that f minus g satisfy the definition of continuity. Okay? So, dito, okay, you are going to prove that f minus g, okay, we have subtraction. We need to prove that f minus g satisfies the definition of continuity at a. So the limit of the quantity function of x minus g sub x as x minus a, we're going to use the distributive property. Is equal to f a minus g sub a. Again, using the information about limits, the limit the function of x minus g sub x as x approaches to a, okay, limit the function of x as x approaches to a minus limit g sa function of x as x approaches to a is equal to make this one to be continuous, we're going to write in terms of function of a. To make this one to be continuous, we're going to write that one as g sub a. So sabi niya dito, since f and j are both continuous at a, so f minus g is continuous at a. So yun po yung ibig sabihin niya. to make the statement to be continuous. Naintindihan po natin? So, ang gagawin lang po natin, ipuprove lang po natin siya. So, how we're going to prove? We are going to convert this one limit, okay, to make it continuous, dapat itong dalawa, ma-convert siya sa ganito. So, this one is equal to this value to make the functions to be continuous. Okay? Next, dito, no? Last two slides muna tayo. Why do we care whether a function is continuous? Sabi dito, there are several reasons for us to examine continuous functions and their properties. Most of the applications in engineering, the sciences, and business are continuous and are molded by continuous functions or by pieces of continuous functions. Continuous functions have a number of useful properties which are not necessarily true if the function is not continuous. If a result is true of all in continuous function and we have a continuous function, then the result is true for our function. This we can save us from having to show one by one that each result is true for each particular function we use. So some of these properties are given in this recess of this section. Okay? Next, last, differential calculus has been called the study of continuous chains. And many of these results of calculus are guaranteed to be true only for continuous function. If you look ahead into chapter 2 and chapter 3, you will see that many of the theorems have the form if the function is continuous and some additional hypotheses, then some are conclusion. So dito, we are going to make a hypothesis. So by means of the hypothesis, we can make a conclusion. So how are we going to do that? Okay? So ito po siya, no? Ito yung applications po ng continuous functions po natin. So by looking at the figure, makikita po natin siya yung flow ng business po natin. Okay. So halimbawa, tulad po sa sales po, no? If you are going to present your figure sa mga big boss po natin, ganito po yung sales po natin. Ito yung flow niya. Okay? So how are we going to explain this one to our big boss? Okay? Sabi po natin, if this one represents the number of months, okay? Halimbawa, December 2020, okay? This is our zero, no? New Year, no? January, February, March, April, May. So, paano natin malalaman kung okay yung sales mo natin? So, sabi natin, last December, okay yung sales mo natin. Hanggang mag-end po siya. Okay? Pero after January, ibig sabihin, may problem po tayo dun sa sales po natin. Hindi siya continuous. Bakit hindi siya continuous? Dahil meron tayong tinatawag na undefined. Okay? So, may problem po tayo dito. Okay? Next, pagdating ng February, continuous pa rin yung sales po natin. Okay pa rin. Okay? Ibig sabihin, mula last year December, pagdating ng last day ng January or the month of January, hindi po continuous yung sales natin. Pero February, continuous po siya. Pagdating ng March, okay, tumataas po siya, pero kalaunan, hindi continuous yung sales natin. Bumagsak po siya. Okay? So, nag-start ulit tayo sa panibago. From March to April, okay po yung sales po natin. Okay? So, yun po siya. Pero, pagdating ng April, nawala po rin, discontinuous pa rin siya. Dahil meron tayong undefined. Okay? Pagdating ng April, up to May, ibig sabihin, going down na po yung sales po natin. So, that's one of the common applications of continuous functions po natin. If you have an equation or function, then we are going to represent that using the figure. By figure alone, makikita po natin kung continuous ba yung functions po natin o hindi. Okay?